One of the great aims of life is to achieve your own peace of mind. And the reason why so few people have peace of mind is because they don't set it as an important enough goal. And if they do, they don't take the time to understand what stands between them and peace of mind. Now, we talked earlier about one of the major obstacles or major pairs of obstacles are negative habit patterns, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection. Those rob us of an enormous amount of peace of mind. We also talked about feelings of guilt, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of worthlessness, feelings of undeservingness, and so on. They also rob us of peace of mind. And I want to talk in this session about the last, if you like, key to this discussion on negative emotions, what we call negative imagination. Now, the word negative imagination comes from an extensive body of literature that was written at the beginning of the century, but they found that negative imagination is something that we create in ourselves that causes us an enormous amount of stress and distress, if you like. Negative imagination creates fear. And one of the best definitions of fear that I've seen lately is what is called fantasized. It can ask, what were they worrying about at the current time? And they accumulated it all up, and they found this is what people worry about. 40% of the worries that people had were things that never happened. When they went back later, they found that the things they were worried about would never happen. They were going to be late, or they'd lose a job, or they wouldn't work out on a date or a relationship. The next figure, 30%, were things that were in the past, that had already happened, that nothing could be done about. There were 12% of worries were worries about health. In most cases, needless worries. The thought that they had a pain or an illness or an ailment or something else that didn't turn out to be true. 10% of the things people worried about were petty worries. They were worried about whether or not they had enough change in the parking meter, whether or not someone would phone them. And really irrelevant worries. Only 8% of the worries were about anything substantial at all. And of those 8%, half, or 4%, were totally outside the control.
Let me give you a Bible philosophy that teaches how to get whatever you want. That's the title of the next set of notes. How to get whatever you want from the Bible. Now, again, I'm an amateur when it comes to the Bible. I'm not a pro. But this I can quote, and I think that'll be sufficient. How to get whatever you want. Here's what it says if you're ready. It says, ask. That's it. End of notes. Ask. If there's one art in life to learn extremely well, that's got to be one of them. The art of asking. What does ask mean? Ask means, what do you want? And the formula is staggering. It says ask and what? A guy ought to look into that. He says, yeah, but you work where I work. By the time you struggle home, it's late. You got to eat a bite of supper, watch a little TV, get to bed. You can't sit up half the night. Ask. And the guys be... See, you've got to be better than a good worker. You've got to be a good asker.
The doctor can't save them. But the stress of not facing the possibility keeps them away from a doctor long past the point where a doctor could help them. Number 3 is resolve to accept the worst should it occur. Resolve to accept the worst should it occur. This is not passive and this is not fatalistic. Just say, if nothing could be done and it would happen, I will accept it. I have a saying which I use that is, what cannot be cured must be endured. What cannot be cured must be endured. So you say, well, all right, if this happens, I'll accept it, and I'll learn to live with it. I'm not going to let it break me. I'm not going to let it kill me. And then number 4 is begin immediately to improve upon the worst. Begin immediately to improve upon the worst. What does that mean? It means you've now accepted that it might happen, and you've now decided that you will live with it should it occur, and now you do everything you possibly can to work back and make sure that the worst doesn't occur. In business, by the way, this is called the minimax regret analysis. It's minimizing the maximum regret. In other words, it's saying, what is the worst thing that can happen and how can I minimize that maximum regret? This minimax technique is a tremendous technique because it clears your mind considerably. And one of the best ways to use it is this. Really neat method. Take a piece of paper, draw a line down the center and a line across the top, and then work down the page. And right on this side, write WPO. I'm sorry, no, right on this page, your definition. In other words, this is a clear definition of what's bothering you. On the top of this page, you write WPO, worst possible outcome. And then you write 1, and you say, I'm worried about this. And you write it out clearly, and then you write 1, you say the worst possible outcome is this. 2, I'm worried about this. 2, worst possible outcome is this. And so on. You'll find that every single time you do this, the problem just evaporates. And most, not all of course, but most of the stress or strain disappears. Your mind goes clear, and with a clear mind, you can then deal with it effectively. Now, the final point with regard to this whole idea of worry and negative imagination is, what is the antidote? What is the antidote to worry? What do you think it is? Well, it's simply this. It is purposeful action. The only real antidote to worry is purposeful action. Everything that gets you to the point where you can take purposeful action, where you can move, and as Shakespeare says, take arms against the sea of troubles, and by so doing end them, anything that gets you to the point where you can take purposeful action will eliminate the worry. Why? Because of what we call the law of substitution. You cannot be working on a problem or a situation and thinking and acting purposefully to resolve it and still worry about it simultaneously. Worry almost always comes when you have too much time on your hands. Worry is a form of negative goal setting. Remember we talked about the law of concentration? It says whatever you dwell upon grows. Well, whenever you have a worry situation, what do you find yourself doing? What you find yourself doing is thinking about, talking about, dwelling upon, vividly imagining exactly what you don't want. By the law of expectations, is whatever you expect will come into your life. That which I greatly feared has come upon me, is what it says in the book of Job. Or the law of attraction says, you will attract into your life the people and circumstances in harmony with your dominant thoughts. The reason why we're taking a whole module to talk about worry is this, is that there are some people who don't worry about anything. This method, by the way, of determining the worst possible outcome, the worry buster, is also a tremendous method for decision making. When you go into any situation where you have to make a decision one way or another, the first question you should sit and ask, once you've analyzed it, is what's the worst thing that can happen? I remember the great J. Paul Getty, who at one time was one of the richest men in the world, said that this method of determining the worst possible downside was used by him as a decision-making method into every business deal he went to. What he went into, what he would do is he would say, no, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then he would make sure that the worst didn't happen. So make the decision right now that you're going to eliminate worry, fantasized experiences appearing real, that you're going to accept the worst possible outcome should it occur, and now get busy, do everything humanly possible to take constructive action to eliminate the worry situation and do away with it. That's the key to eliminating the final of the worst of our negative emotions.
This is the end of Side 2. Please fast forward the tape to the end to cue up Side 1 for your next listening.